Your Name is the highest grossing anime film worldwide, a beautiful romance film that is about fate and destiny. As a person that loves relationships and dating, I wanted to take a deep look at their relationship and determine if it's actually healthy or not. So join us as we take a deep dive into the relationship between Mitsuha and Taki. This is a star-crossed lover film with a Freaky Friday remix. Both the main characters constantly switch bodies for 3 years, starting from middle school going into high school. Also, they don't remember anything when the other person is possessing their body. They eventually start having feelings for each other over the course of the 3 years. After watching this for the first time, I questioned why would these people even love each other after just meeting once? It sounds insane. But then I thought about it, that they switch bodies for 3 years and they get to know the people around them, which makes it easier to kind of figure out who the person is. Now, I'm about to spoil this movie, so if you haven't watched the movie, I highly recommend you pause, watch the movie, and return back to see me ruin this movie for you. Let's get into it. Mitsuha, a girl from a small town called Itamori who gets judged for spitting rice into a little wooden box, doesn't enjoy her life and wishes she would be a handsome boy in her next life. This girl doesn't even know what's coming. Then there is Taki, a popular city boy who works at a restaurant with a hot mama, Miss Ukudera, that he may or may not go on a date with in the future. The relationship between Taki and Mitsuha is an interesting one since they don't actually physically see each other. Rather, they get to know each other through the people around them. They communicate through notes and texts, but more or less it's just rules they should follow to not ruin their social lives. Things get a little more hectic when they start breaking the rules and they have this friction between the two of them. This is the start of them secretly being into each other. They almost have this unintentional push-pull going on, which I do not recommend people to do, but causing this kind of drama adds emotion to their life that they invest in which case they have to be invested in each other because they are literally in each other. Not in that kind of way, yet. Eventually, Mitsuha sets up a date for Taki and Miss Ukudera. However, in her notes, it says it's a date she wanted to go on. As they show Taki on the date, Mitsuha starts crying in front of the mirror at the fact that they could already be on the date. Obviously, she is secretly hoping he declines the date or that the date goes bad so she can one day be with Taki. Little does she know that date doesn't happen until 3 years later. Since Taki and Mitsuha are on 2 different timelines, Mitsuha being 3 years in the past and Taki being in the present. Later in the film, they show Mitsuha meeting Taki on the train, and she tries to introduce herself thinking Taki would know who she is, obviously because they are constantly switching bodies. Taki has no recollection of her because he hasn't switched bodies with her since that is 3 years in the future in his timeline. This leaves Mitsuha upset and embarrassed. But right as she exits the train, this epic scene happens when Taki asks her what her name is and she tosses her magic ribbon to him and says, "Future Smoocher." Now, back to when Mitsuha was crying in front of the mirror about Taki being on the date, she still has the magic ribbon on, which means she told him to go on the date before meeting Taki on the train. Which means Mitsuha went to go find him thinking the date didn't go well, or maybe she could steal his heart. Anyways, she ends up cutting her hair, probably after the fact that Taki didn't recognize her. Because that's what you do when something ruins your life, you go out and cut your hair. Moving back to the present, Taki wanted to tell her that the date was lousy because he secretly likes her. Aww, so cute. But a big comet comes down on her town and they never switch bodies again. During this time, Taki experiences loneliness and goes out to find her, not knowing where she actually lives, and is going purely based on the landscape he drew. On top of all of this, he doesn't even know that the comet hit her town 3 years ago. He eventually finds out upon going into a restaurant, and the workers tell him the awful news about Itimori. He then starts thinking it was all a dream, until looking at the magical ribbon on his arm and remembers a girl gave it to him, wait for it, 3 years ago. So then he starts mapping out a crazy hike to the shrine where Mitsuha went with her grandma. Now, I'm not saying you'd be a crazy person to go on this crazy adventure to find a girl you met once and don't remember, but yeah, you definitely are a crazy person. Once he gets to the shrine, he drinks the spit juice that Mitsuha made. He thoroughly enjoys it as any obsessive person would. Then some Deus Ex Machina shit happens, and then Taki awakens in Mitsuha's body the day of the comet hitting. Mitsuha awakens in Taki's body at the shrine where all the crazy magic happened. They both end up going up the same mountain where even more magic happens and they can suddenly see each other. How? Magic. That's how. It's really heartfelt, they both cry, and the girl gets mad because he touched her boobies while he was in her body. Which, I mean, who wouldn't? You can't tell me she didn't check out what he was packing. Yes, they are high schoolers. Yes, they get horny. Get over it. Up until this point, they really haven't had a conversation with each other. Thinking about this now, I'm realizing this is probably how high schoolers would talk to each other. She gets mad and then all of a sudden laughs in a weird, awkward teenage way. He nervously laughs after she laughs, and it's just reawakening my high school awkward phase. Before this magical moment ends, they take out a marker to write their name on their hands to not forget who they are. Unfortunately, Mitsuha doesn't have enough time to write her name, and Taki doesn't write his name. Instead, he writes, "I love you." At this point, a river is flowing outside of your eyeballs. After watching this movie multiple times, I realized that it makes sense that they fall in love with each other without actually ever really meeting each other. When I first watched this, I didn't think that this body swapping thing was happening over the course of 3 years. Honestly, I would have tried to meet up with a girl way sooner if we were constantly switching bodies. Who wouldn't want to meet the person that you were touching their boobies this whole entire time? Also, they are high schoolers. Of course, they're going to fall in love with this weird problem that is happening to them. They are practically already invested a shit ton of time into each other. At first, I thought this relationship was pretty insane, thinking Taki was the avoidant type, uncomfortable with intimacy, feeling suffocated when people get close to him, and avoids commitment, and Mitsuha as the anxious type, nervous and stressed about relationships, has trouble trusting people, and overly emotional. They still definitely hold some of these traits, but there are other things that can't be explained, like the whole body switching thing. I'm pretty sure no one has ever actually experienced this in their life, but if it did happen, that would be freaking awesome. So with all this in mind, the relationship between the two of them are pretty, well, not normal, but not bad either. If I had to give this relationship a rating, it would be a 7 out of 10. They lived each other's lives, kind of know their friends and family, and have definitely touched each other, emotionally and physically. Yo guys, thanks for watching my video, even though you guys probably already left by now, but if you haven't, let me know if I should do another anime relationship analysis in the comments, and I will try to my best to decipher it. This is my first time kind of doing this thing, so might be a little rough on the edges, but we'll work it out. Anyways, thank you guys, and I'll see you in the next video.